And welcome to Brand New House Midlife, and we've been in the library, and we're not quiet in the library! I mean, hello. Are we ready for more book? Some more reading! Because it is Sunday, and that is what we do on Sundays. We read books. We soak words into our brains. Hello, everyone. Hello, Nose, Ice Phantom, the Void Dweller, the Jake, the Void Traveller, and their Hell. Welcome. Today we are reading a new book. This book has a trailer. I'm going to give you guys a link to it if you want to hop over. It's 1 minute and 20 seconds long. So you can... I wonder if Library Guardian gives you more books to read because you get loud. No, the library is really big and I haven't actually disturbed anyone yet. So that is entirely an issue. Brandy Rose Smith's dreams and the sun has finally risen in Lancashire. But anyway, here's the trailer for this book because she made a book trailer. Meredith Lindsey made a book trailer. It's a kind of YA book with a bit of mystery, a bit of magic, a secret admirer, a serial killer. A hard choice. I have read the first 10%, as I usually do, to vet these books, and it's very American. I look forward to asking people if things are real, and if you do call these things some of these things, there's things that I question in here. But that should be fun to read. The history is good. The main character's main plight at the start is pretty good. And I'm just gonna procrastinate a hot minute while anyone who did... American in chat, good. I'm gonna need a couple of Americans in chat reading this. You're gonna explain some things for me. Hey Brio, chat, how's it going? Yet, Bryony does a skit where she interrupts someone's reading by yelling. It's entirely possible that might happen at some point. If I somehow manage to read too many books and actually get to a point, then it could happen, who knows. To extend things. That probably would have definitely happened. Please don't give them a cowgirl cowgirl accent, yeah? From the South. I won't. They're all gonna be weirdly British Americans because I'm reading it, but you know. I think I procrastinated enough for anyone who wanted to watch the trailer. It was also posted in the Discord if anyone was curious, so get your asses in the Discord. I'm going to do a tiny bit of shilling as well, just before we start, because I tend to do this at the end. And I should do it in the stream a little bit more, because I want to live off my streams and creative writing and creative escapades at some point in my life. And I would really like your guys' support to do that. So if you have anything you can spare and would like to support me in any way, there are multiple links in the description to merch, Kofi, and Patreon. That would be wonderful if you could. No pressure, thank you! Well, I wouldn't mind British American accent. What is a British American accent? British American accent. Southern is literally the only American accent I can do. And even then, it's obviously ear-grating, transatlantic. Don't even know what that would be. But let's have a look. We have 32 chapters here. I can't wait to see the lines on the trailer on the book. So I could be like, yo, that's a line from the trailer. Yeah, I'm actually kind of excited for that too. Chapter 1. Hi, Boris. Just stopping by to say hello. Gotta try and get stuff done since I worked overtime yesterday. Oh, no! Oh, good luck, Boris. I hope you get all your things done. Thank you for stopping by. Let's take a look. A book look. Da 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 da. Chapter 1. I never experienced motion sickness before. In all my 17 years, I never asked my mother to pull the car over so I could empty my stomach contents along the side of the road. I never dreaded the act of driving until very recently. My whole life had been changed by a single car ride, and I wasn't even present when it happened. Pull over! I gasped, already clutching my stomach in one hand and covering my mouth with the other. Really, Camille? Again? My mother sighed and directed the car to the shoulder just in time. There wasn't anything left in my stomach by that point. I'd already purged myself 3 times during the 4-hour car drive from Colorado. Even so, the dry heaves racked my frame painfully as I tried to regain control of my body. My skin was covered in a sheen of sweat that seemed to sparkle in the midday sun, and I wondered how much longer I would have to endure this. I looked up from my position on the ground and received my answer. 50 yards ahead of me stood the city sign, casting a long shadow that almost reached my hands in the overgrown grass. The green paint peeled in several places, and the battered wood revealed the years of wear and tear. The fancy cursive writing had faded over time, but I could still make out the greeting. Welcome to Green Peaks, Wyoming. We hope you have a pleasant stay. Oh, that wasn't bad. That was pretty good. Oh yeah, Bryony, I'm planning to do some monetarily things with you way later if I reach my own goals. Oh, well, good luck with those goals then. Green Peaks, not quite Green Hill Zone. I sat back on my heels and allowed my stomach to settle. With the sign might have been old and worn, but it was the most welcoming thing I'd seen in weeks. It could have read, "Welcome to hell, have a wretched stay," and I still would have preferred this place over the one I was leaving behind. As if to prove my point, my cell phone buzzed in my back pocket, alerting me to another text message. I ignored it. As I reclaimed my place in the passenger seat, I observed the green patches on my jeans from repeatedly propping myself up on my hands and knees. I hoped the grass marks wouldn't stain. Do you think it was something you ate? My mom asked, using her concerned mother voice. I refrained from rolling my eyes. No, Mom. It wasn't something I ate. The silence stretched between us. We both knew the real reason the never-ending car ride was upsetting my stomach. It was the same reason that I was sitting in the front seat instead of the back. I couldn't pretend we were heading towards a family vacation. Not without my dad acting as the DJ in the shotgun spot. The truck full of luggage might depict the illusion that we were simply off on a weekend getaway, but the trailer bouncing and squeaking behind my mum's SUV told the truth. This was a one-way trip, and we were never going back. As we neared our final destination, I got my first look at what Green Peaks had to offer. The town founders hadn't had to stretch very far to come up with a suitable name. But sides of the highway were furnished with long stretches of forest and sea rolling. And a sea trailer, yeah. Certified American. Both sides of the highway were furnished with long stretches of forest, a sea of rolling hills that were capped by green leaves and ferns. I didn't know how far the lines of trees expanded, but it was evident that they encompassed the entire town. We turned onto a smaller road that lacked a middle line, and it carried us into the center of the town, where there were exactly 3 four-way stops. I thought my hometown of Plainfield had been small, but at least we had stoplights. I didn't think the blinking red lights perched on these stop signs like angry guardian vultures really counted. The town consisted of a volunteer fire station, a park bordered by a couple of elementary schools, a sleepy-looking gas station with 2 measly pumps, a post office, and a small home-owned pharmacy. There was a police station, a tiny hospital that looked more like a clinic, and a school that housed both the junior high and high school students 2 roads over. And that was it. Where's the Walmart? Certified American. I I gaped out the window as we passed the tiny businesses. My mum turned the wheel and followed the twisting road the GPS directed us to. Green Peaks is too small for a Walmart, my mom said with a shrug. As if I should already know this. There's a Walmart in Rollins a little over 30 minutes away. Pete said the gas station, GG's Oil, had most of the groceries we'll need, so we shouldn't have to make the trip too often anyway. Too small for a Walmart. Yeah, that's horse shit. I thought Walmarts were supposed to be humongous. Like really big. Because they own a branch of supermarkets in the UK called Asda. And as soon as Walmart took them over, you could notice. They completely changed. It was so funny. And I've been to I think I've been to a Walmart in America once. And it basically looked like a Costco to me. It was fucking huge. They'd at least stuck with a Kmart or a Kroger. Asda, yeah. They own a supermarket branch called Asda here. This new piece of information pulled me up short. I couldn't call myself a city girl by any means, but no Walmart! We're living in the Stone Age! My homey feeling I first received when entering the small town suddenly turned into suffocation. Breathe, Cammy, my mom chuckled at my reddening face. I gasped in response and laughed as air filled my lungs. What does Target own in the UK? I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna Google that. Does Target own any supermarkets in the UK? Does Target own any businesses in the UK? I'm pretty sure they don't own anything in particular. What is Target in the UK? I know Target isn't in the UK, but like, do we have an equivalent store? So apparently we don't have anything that really is an equivalent to Target, apparently. They own Tesco? Seriously? Does Target own Tesco? I need to know. I need to know. I need to know if this is true. As June 11, Tesco announced it was working with 2 Degrees to create an online hub as part of its... No, I don't know if it does. Maybe they're owned by the same company? Is it a sister company? Maybe. No, Tesco's just another supermarket chain here. It was one of the biggest supermarket chains here for a long time. There was a time... No, it's a joke. I meant Harrods. Oh my god. Yeah, so it doesn't. It doesn't. Okay. Target doesn't own anything in the UK. You gave me a heart attack with that. Everything's gonna be too American and British for me to understand everything. What? Give us some supermarkets from your place then. Germany? I believe you. Maybe. What would be the Walmart of your country? Amazon still delivers here, so you can order your art supplies online. I relaxed a little. I guess it wasn't the complete Stone Age if we still had Amazon. The meager art supplies I had left were packed up neatly in the trunk, but they wouldn't last long if this place was inspiring enough for me to get back to my canvases. You don't have something to... You don't have like a big supermarket or anything? I mean, do you have like smaller chains and then just like butchers and smaller grocery shops? Is that how it works? Tell me more. I hadn't touched a paintbrush in weeks, and my fingers itched at the thought of capturing the sunlight breaking through the trees. There's Best Buy and the mall I frequent. Our supermarkets don't have specific names, just lots of stores inside a nameless supermarket. Oh, that's cool. So kind of like a mall kind of thing, a shopping center. Interesting. So you'd go to a place like that for like your weekly shop? I kind of think that's fun. Best Buy is dying. At least mine is. Oh no. The road we follow eventually narrowed onto a gravel drive, and within a couple of minutes we arrived at the new house. My mom had told me we were getting an upgrade in quantity of our space and a downgrade in quality, but I still couldn't believe how big the house was until I saw it with my own eyes. It was Victorian-styled, with a tower that cast a pointed shadow over half the yard, and a spacious front porch that I could see continued to wrap around the back. The crown moulding was falling off in places, and the white paint was peeling even worse than of the sign at the town's border. The windows were dusty and probably no longer opened, but they were at least intact. I loved all of it. Well, I guess there's Dollar Tree, but I can't help but imagine that the UK, it's triple, quarter pound a month. We have Poundland. There used to be another one. There used to be £2 shops. Not that a lot of it in there is a quid nowadays. But yeah, Poundland. We got Poundland. A red pickup truck waited at the end of the driveway, and the driver laid on the horn as we approached. The engine died, and a man and woman stepped out as we parked beside them. "Lacey!" Mum cried as she bolted out of our still-running car. I sighed and hit the button to stop the engine, before opening my own door. I was lucky she'd managed to put it in park, but I didn't hold her carelessness against her. She was as fragile as I was at that point, maybe even more so. "Oh, Terry, it's good to see you. I'm so sorry we couldn't make it to the funeral." My mum hugged her sister fiercely, and I could tell as the tears began to flow and the sobs racked her body that Aunt Lacey was doing a good job of holding her up. Also, Dollar General, but we're like calling those places the dollar store. Yeah, like we're pound shops, dollar store. Uncle Peter walked around the car with his arms wide and allowed him to crush me in, and I allowed him to crush me in his embrace. "Good to see you, kiddo." He hadn't called me kiddo in 5 years, but then again, I hadn't seen him in 5 years either. Ever since my grandmother passed away, our families had stopped getting together for the holidays. Since I didn't have any cousins to be friends with, it didn't bother me too much. They still called each other and touched base a few times a year, but other than that, we had all been content to live our lives with the Wyoming and Colorado border between us. Uncle Pizza? Uncle Peter. It looked like it took a family crisis to bring Mum and my aunt together again. My uncle's strong cologne filled my nose, and I tried not to scrunch my face up against it. After what felt like an eternity, or maybe that was because I was holding my breath again, he pulled back and held me at my elbows. "You're a senior now, huh? Almost a real adult. I can't believe you got so tall." I thought Wyoming was fake. We are reading a fiction book, so maybe it is. Is there an American meme that Wyoming or Montana doesn't exist? I thought about informing him that 5 feet and 3 inches was on the lower end of average for an adult woman, but considering how short I'd been the last time I saw him, I understood where he was coming from. And I had been the shortest girl in my grade, and probably the grade below me too. Mood. I've been that. I've been there. Up until I turned 14 and hit my growth spurt, and then I was still small. Now I was the same height as my mum, the spitting image of her with our long dark hair and greyish eyes. The only things I inherited from my father were the waviness of his hair and the presence of a single dimple on my right cheek, assuming I smiled enough to show it. Oh, I think that's a really good way of like getting a first-person views character's appearance across without sounding too weird. Because most first persons tend to wait until their character's looking in a mirror to describe them, but that was a really cool way of doing it, I think. Hello, Red Candy Guy, welcome! Oh, this reminded me of a funny SCP. I'm gonna drop the suggestion in the Patreon chat after the stream. Cool! Go for it. Yeah, I turned 18 in 2 months. I agreed, and gently backed away from his hands to turn towards the house looming in front of us. It's a beauty, isn't it? Uncle Peter asked in my ear. I nodded. I couldn't agree more. I gave Auntie Lacey some time to put the pieces of my mother back together, while her husband and I started unpacking the car. As we carried the boxes into the house, I was struck again with the sheer size of it all. There was absolutely no reason my mum and I needed this much space. I wondered how we could afford it. How did you pick this house for us, Uncle Peter? I dropped a box of kitchen utensils on the counter. Uncle Peter lowered his box of miscellaneous items and leaned against the bar that was larger than our old kitchen table. The school board is kinda like the city council of this town. We pretty much run things around here, he began. This house has been sitting for 100 years without an owner and belongs to the township. It's not in the best shape, but all things considered, it could be much worse. I was able to get a very good price for your mum. Yeah, 'cause she's very sad and falling apart. She's a sad lady. Gotta put it back together. I nodded my head and looked around. Sure, the wood was dusty and the floor creaked with every step, but there were no signs of mice or any other creature trying to make this place its home. The house was like a black and white picture, a snapshot of what it had been over 100 years ago, almost perfectly preserved over time. The more I saw of the house, the more amazed I became. I was suddenly very grateful for my uncle and his ties in this tiny, overlooked town. Uncle Peter was the principal at Green Peaks High School and apparently held a high seat on the school board as well. Only in a town this size would he be allowed to do both. But there probably wasn't a lot of competition or people who even wanted to fill the positions. I guess. No, don't take it literally. Figuratively. Have you seen my mother's emotional arm? Uncle Pizza, I've only got Cousin Pizza. Not only did he score this house for us, but he was able to find my mother a job as well. While 5th grade had always been my mum's favourite class to teach, she was happy to accept the 2nd grade teaching position that had opened up that summer. With only one adult to provide income for the family now, it was essential that she found a reasonable job to pay the bills. My mum and Aunt Lacey walked through the door and praised the hard work we had accomplished so far. We didn't have a ton of belongings to bring with us from Colorado, but I carried enough heavy boxes to work up a sweat. This place is amazing, Pete. I can't believe you found this for us. My mum kissed Uncle Peter on the cheek, and he batted her away playfully. You girls are my family. I'd do anything for you. He smiled at me widely before turning to grab more boxes. Upstairs, I picked out the room that seemed the biggest to call my own. Mum preferred a room on the lower level, so I basically had the whole 2nd floor to myself. Surprisingly, the house was furnished for the most part, lacking only appliances and a good cleaning. And a queen-sized mattress I plopped down on exhaled a much smaller plume of dust than I'd been expecting. My room faced the back of the house and out the smudgy window, I could see the line of trees that began on both sides of the backyard. Our property had been on the very edge of town, because the forest surrounded us on 3 sides and left the only opening to face the road that brought us here. I was gazing out the window when my phone buzzed again, like an incessant creature that demanded I know it was there. I considered asking my mum to get me a new phone with a new number, but I didn't want to bother her with everything else that was going on. I figured I might as well get the beating over with. I extracted it from my pocket and lit up the screen. 3 new messages stared up at me. You and your family are total trash. There's not enough booze in the state of Wyoming to satisfy your alcoholic family. Your father got what he deserved that night. 3 messages from 3 different numbers I didn't have in my contact list. I might not have known their names, but I knew they had to be my fellow Plainfield high school classmates. I'd always known my father liked to drink, but it had never been an issue in my household. He would have a few beers, many times more than just a few, but he never grew mean or hostile or ever treated my mum or me harshly. If anything, the alcohol made him rather silly and sometimes more fun to be around. He had not, to my knowledge, ever driven drunk before. The night we received the phone call, everything changed. It was a Friday night, and Dad had been at the bar with a few of his friends having a good time. Witnesses say he didn't seem incoherent, but the bartender encouraged him to call a cab, supposedly. I had a feeling that he added that detail to protect his bar's reputation. Dad didn't call a cab, though. He tried to drive home after too many drinks. If he'd simply driven off the road and met his end against an electric pole or tree, I wouldn't have been receiving non-stop text messages for the past 2 weeks. If he'd simply taken a cab, the entire town wouldn't hate us. Roger Stone met with his end when his Chevy Malibu made contact with the little Mazda Mita that was heading home after a date at the movies. They said it was a head-on collision, and both drivers and 1 passenger were pronounced dead at the scene. That night, my mother and I lost an essential unit to our family, and Plainfield High lost its star quarterback and cheerleading captain. Amelia Piper and Nathan Miles, winner of the cutest couple awards 3 years straight. They were in my class, both about to begin their senior year and both holding scholarship offers to colleges across the state. It was funny how one day no one in the school knew my name, and the next everyone had my number and was sending me death threats. Overnight, I'd become a sort of celebrity. I had exactly 1 friend left, a flamboyant boy named Michael Varner, and he was the only one sad to see me leave. They were probably jerks, let's face it. If American TV has taught me anything, the star quarterback and the cheerleading captain are always jerks. My mum and I needed a fresh start, and here in Green Peaks, Wyoming, we were hoping to get just that. I shoved my phone into the bedside table and slammed the drawer a little too hard. Even if I blocked those numbers, more would take their place. Their words were already branded inside of my eyelids, reminding me not only of my father's death, but also that he had died a murderer. I closed my eyes and leaned my forehead against the window, not caring about the layer of grime anymore. I tried to relax, let my emotions take over, but the tears still wouldn't come. As I stood there staring out the dirt-streaked glass, I couldn't help but feel drawn to the forest spread before me. Something inside me was being tugged forward, like it needed to be lost in the sea of green and leave this life and all my sorrows behind. Within the shadows of the trees, I thought I saw a figure move. And then I blinked, and There was nothing but green leaves and... How did the entire class have the number? I'm introverted, so I don't have many people's numbers. I imagine maybe one person had her number from a class project that maybe wasn't too friendly with her and didn't like her, and then gave it to everyone else. That's most likely what happened. And TV is always accurate. That's why I get all my UK knowledge from Would I Lie to You? Would they lie to you, though? No, of course not. It's always a trio of friends in high school. Yeah, I had a bit of a trio going on, too. There's a good trio. Triage. Chapter 2! We spent the rest of the weekend settling into the new house that I was starting to think of as our mansion. I hated sweeping and dusting, but the necessary chores helped turn my mind away from the depressing thoughts that tried to crush me every time I found myself alone. The living room was too big, with tall ceilings and a fireplace I could almost stand in. The family room became the place my mum and I congregated, where we could sit and talk and watch TV or sprawl out on the couch with a book. I was surprised by how quickly the place began to feel like home. We only had a few days to unpack before Monday arrived, marking the first day of school year for both of us. I was glad to be starting a new school on the first day rather than jumping into a class of students that were already in the middle of their subjects. It was smoother this way, and all I wanted was for my senior year to go smoothly and not create any more waves. The part I was dreading the most about my first day was my method of getting there. It's me! Indeed. Hello, Luke. You're late? No worries, you can be late. It's okay, no pressure, no pressure. You just turn up when you want, leave when you want. You do you. I'm good. I'm reading a new book. First day of school time. You just tell me that if American high school is really like this. My mum was dressed. Are you ready to go, sweetie? My mum was dressed in a glittery purple top and a long polka dot skirt for her first day on the job. Honey, you're in a YA book. Your senior year's about to get wacky. Hopefully you don't come across any vampires. A mansion. Your uncle lives in a large 3-story house. I kept calling it a mansion, but my family kept correcting me saying it's not a mansion, it's just a large house. Just a large house. I knew she was hoping to impress the second graders with her bright clothes and convey the message that she was a fun teacher. One that they could expect to have a great time with. Next to her sparkles and polka dots, my jeans and black t-shirt seemed very drab. Yeah, I just need to grab my backpack. I sincerely hoped the students at Green Peaks High were unobservant, or at least kinder than those in Colorado. I didn't want everyone to see me carted to school in my mother's SUV like one of those second graders she was on her way to teach. It was embarrassing to have to arrive this way instead of driving up in a cute sports car and parking with the rest of the student body. So, like, y'all drive to school? How big are parking lots in American schools for like everyone in the student body to be able to drive to school? I went to a non-traditional American high school, Brownie, so don't ask me for accuracy. If you're curious, they had us teach ourselves while the teachers watched us work until the booklets were ready to take the tests. Oh, cool. It's America. Everything is a parking lot. That's a good point. That's a good point. But yeah, that's something that kind of blew my mind with this book. It's like, I guess because you guys can drive at 16, can't you? Whereas we can't. Well, we can. When do we get our provisional licenses? think it is 16. But we can't drive on our own 16. Something that I have learned these past year, aside from oil, Americans really love parking lots. My school had a massive parking lot, but everyone just parked in the park next to the school, which was twice as big. I didn't drive until I was 19 because I was terrified of driving. That's still really early. Like, a lot of people, like, most people didn't drive when I was in high school. Because, like, you could get your provisional, but you wouldn't be able to drive without someone else in the car until you pass your test. And I don't think you can get, like, a proper one until I need to double check. When? I'm pretty sure it's 16. And you get a provisional license in the UK. I'm pretty sure it's 16. No, it's 15! So when can you do the test then? Take a I'm knowing so much about my country. Until 17. So you can have your provisional for like 15 and then you can potentially drive at 17. But most people don't in the UK. You're cool! Hello, Jabba Hop. I know, I didn't drive to school. I rode the city bus to high school. I had to get the bus pass renewed every 31 days. I still don't drive now that I'm 23 years old. I don't think I'm gonna get a driver's license until I get rich. Yeah, that's fair. It is expensive to learn to drive. To show how American I am, my old high school was located next to a gun store. Oh my god, you are the most American. Have the most American in chat award. I could emerge from my car in a gust of wind that swirled my dark hair around me, and the other students would stop and stare and wonder who that cool new girl was. Who was I kidding? I had never been the cool girl. No, you just... Now at a fast food place and you've won the lottery. On your high school on the right was a gun shop. On your left was a Mackey's. I had a Mackey's recently. I haven't been to McDonald's in ages, and I had a Mackey's recently. And it made me happy. I had a burger. I normally get the nuggies when I go to Mackey's, but I really wanted a burger. It was actually so much better than I remembered Mackey's ever being. There was a bar outside of my high school turned into Tim Hortons. Close to being a fast. Is Tim Hortons technically? Well, then again, I guess it does have burgers. My brain was like, it's like a Costa. It's a cafe. Because I know it more for the drinks and donuts. But I have had food at a Timmy Hortons once. It was kind of naff. Canadian. Where was I? Back home before all of this happened, my family owned 2 cars. My mum's SUV and my dad's Malibu. When I turned 16, I sort of inherited my dad's car, except his name remained on the paperwork. It was mine to drive to school and take to movies with friends I had, and my parents shared the SUV since they had always carpooled to work anyway. But sometimes my dad still drove his car, like on the night of the accident. After the initial blow of learning about my father's death, the hits kept coming. Our car insurance wouldn't pay to replace my father's car because he was intoxicated when he wrecked. The life insurance wouldn't pay out either, so there we were. One family unit down in an already struggling household with one less car and salary to pay the bills. So insurance is a monthly thing. I hear your car would just shut down if you missed a payment. Have a good lurk, Luke. You chill out. You deserve it. You work hard. I wish for the 100th time that he called a cab. The drive to school passed in a matter of minutes, and when I was looking up at a 2-story building lined with white stones and dark windows that reflected the early morning sun and prevented me from seeing what horrors might lay dormant inside. The parking lot was half filled with students hanging around their cars and chatting about their summer vacations before being forced to return to the penitentiary of a school. As my mum drove around to the office entrance, I was happy to note there were no heads turned our way. I might get out of this unscathed after all. I keep seeing people with 2, 3, and 4 cars each. Are you sure you don't want me to go with you? I tried to hide my horror at the thought of my mother escorting me to the office with her glittering shirt and carrying voice, shouting for the world to hear that Camille Stone had arrived for her first day of her senior year. She might as well hang a kick me sign on my back. Are they really this cutthroat? I would want my mom to come with me. Maybe not in my last year of high school, to be fair. I'm trying to... Because if it's 18... We're talking like... What year was I in for 18? Like year 11? Year 12? Was it 6th form? I might have been 6th form. Not sure. I don't know what the equivalent is sometimes. Obviously, I'm glad it's said her age, because if it just told me senior, I'd have no idea. That's okay, Mom. I'll tell you how it goes later. I grabbed my bag and turned to the door. Have a great day, sweetie! I'll meet you back here as soon as I can get out of work. I didn't want to think about how long I might be stuck waiting around for her to pick me up. There were some benches I could sit on, but they were in clear view of the parking lot, and all the students that would be leaving staring at the new girl who didn't even own a car. Oh my god! What a peasant! I needed to focus on one thing at a time, or I might start hyperventilating. A gust of frigid air washed over me as I opened the heavy door, making me feel like I was stepping into an oversized freezer rather than a place of learning. I hadn't brought a jacket because it was 80 degrees outside, but apparently Green Peaks liked the cold. And get the pleb outfit. It doesn't even own an automobile! Brady, did you just call me, what did I call? As being sarcastic on the thing. You don't take it personally. Don't take it personally. Just making a joke. You don't own a car? That's okay. I was actually it was sarcasm. In that it is very silly that she thinks it's such a big deal that she doesn't own a car. That's the yoke. That was the yoke. Don't you worry. You're valid for not owning a car. Everything inside the office was white. The wall, the tiled floor. The walls, the tiled floor, the countertop. Separating me from the secretary. And even the secretary's hair. I wondered briefly where they kept the padded room in this asylum. I own a car. Broken, beaten, and scarred one. It's got personality. It's what we call personality. It's got battle scars and personality. How could I help you, dear? The woman's voice was stronger than I was expecting from someone who looked like they should have retired 10 years ago. I noticed the silver name tag pinned on her shirt that read Martha. Yeah, I'm Cammy Stone. I tried to match the strength in Martha's voice, but I knew I was failing miserably. I probably sounded like a terrified child. Probably looked like one too. At the mention of my name, the secretary's face lit up. Oh yes, Miss Stone, we've been expecting you. Principal Morse told me to notify him as soon as you got here. I started to tell her that wouldn't be necessary. that I just needed a class schedule and a locker number and I could figure the rest out on my own, but she had already pressed the button on the wall and I could hear the answering buzz inside a room deeper in the office. Yeah, that's what I'll tell the mechanic when it breaks down. And they overcharge me for a pass. Yeah, it's battle scars. Adventure. It's character. It's a feature, not a bug. I got an SUV for obvious reasons. Live in the forest, mountains, and rough terrain. Oh, sounds like you need it. Me reads a name tag clearly. Oh, what's your name? Half a second later, Uncle Peter emerged from one of the rooms within the office with a huge smile on his face. Cammy! So great to see you! Are you ready to start your first day? I shrugged my shoulders. I'm here, aren't I? He frowned, and I made a mental note to try tone down the sarcasm. I didn't want people to see me as a loser, but I didn't want them to think I was stuck up either. I love this. This is so teenager. Overthinking everything you do because you don't know how other people are gonna receive it and being worried about how everyone sees you. Oh my god, so teenager. So very teen. Uncle Peter exited through a door on the side of the office and re-emerged through the door I had just entered. He held a sheet of paper, my class schedule, I presumed, and the index card that revealed my locker number and combination. But that's how you are right now? That's okay. You do need to realize that you need to give less of a shit about what other people think. Then it's good. Although I'll admit I didn't start thinking about that till I hit 30. 30, you still think like that in your 20s, I'm not gonna lie. But when I hit around 30, I started giving a lot less of a shit. If I had a car, I would own a legal armored car, so I wouldn't have to worry about getting hit. Yeah, fair. You'd have to worry about accidentally murdering people with it, though, because you might be fine, but whatever you hit ain't gonna be. We've got 20 minutes before your first period starts. I'll show you around so that you don't get lost. I had a little more trouble hiding my emotions on my face this time. What was it with the overly helpful adults today? Was there a sign hovering over my head flashing incompetent teenager? Oh, no, Uncle Pete, I really don't want to trouble you with that. I can ask around if I can't find a classroom. Having the principal hold my hand while he showed me around the school? That was definitely out of the question. I had a feeling this wasn't the normal routine for the new students. If it was clear on my first day that I was going to receive special treatment from the guy running the school, it could mean bad things for me in the eyes of the other students. My mind was flashing back to the text messages that reminded me I was already hated in one school. Nonsense! Uncle Peter cried, walking me back towards the door with a hand on my book bag. It isn't any trouble at all, and I want to make sure you're comfortable here. Me when I was a teenager in high school. Oh hey, I gotta save up money on my shampoo. My classmates, please avoid. I can't handle your mustard gas smell. Sounds awful. It looked like I wasn't going to get through this unscathed after all. I can feel the inside cringe. This is one of the reasons I kind of want to read it. Like, I can feel the cringe in the paper. In the digital paper, you can feel the cringe of this character. And the suffering she's going through. I can't wait till it gets so much more serious. If this is what the author can do with just, like, a girl's cringe first day at school and her expectations and panic, I'm so excited to see what happens next. What happens after. The school was small, much smaller than the one in Plainfield, and that one had been strictly for high school students. Apparently the whole second floor of this building was reserved for the junior high kids. You shouldn't have any reason to go up there, Peter said as we passed the staircase. There were strict rules in place to keep the high schoolers and junior high students separated. Parents were afraid the youngsters might be bullied if they had to share the halls. He smiled and shrugged, almost like the thought amused him. The logic made sense to me, but so did simply having 2 separate buildings to keep us apart. Money didn't grow on trees, I supposed, but if there was much concern from the parents, then I figured it would be worth it to work a new building into the budget. Then again, the chance of something happening to a young kid in a town this size was pretty small. I am the cringe that is a proud shit. Yes. Your first class is American History, which is in room 110. Another American question. Do you guys have normal history and American history, or do you just have American history? Also, how do you learn about American history for the entirety? Do you do different kinds of history? Because American history is really small. There isn't that much to it. It's not a country that's been around for all that long, compared to many. So, like, what does the curriculum even look like? I guess the top floor is for elementary kids. Then imagine the middle schooler having to take a test at a little kid on the floor, but use too loud focus. Just history, but covers America. I know, right? Yeah, but like, there's not much American history. It's British history. I mean, it is to a point. Then it becomes American. There isn't like as much American. Like, do you like learn about dinosaurs too? Do you have a normal history class where you learn about dinosaurs? That's important. Gotta learn about dinosaurs. Peter walked me around the school, pointing out each of my classes and their teachers. It's mostly world history until America gets founded. Then it's just American history. I see. That makes more sense. I wondered. Just because they very specifically called it American history, not just history. But it's America! So it's gotta be history from us, I guess. I don't know. White seemed to be the recurring theme, and the intensity of the color bleaching the hallways and classrooms left me with a headache in no time. The tour took less than 10 minutes because of the school's small size, but by the time I made it back to my locker, the other students were filing in through the front doors, making their way to their first classes. I froze behind my locker and began to search frantically for an escape route before someone saw me with the principal. I could feel my face turning hot and red as the students drew near, and I noticed Uncle Peter smirk at my obvious discomfort. Bloody uncles. I had just slammed my locker and turned to leave when a voice spoke directly behind us. Hey, Mo! Crap, I'd almost made it. I turned reluctantly to find a tall, blonde-haired boy with dark blue eyes leaning up against the wall of the lockers. He spoke to Uncle Peter, but his eyes were on me. Mr. Mitchell, did we behave ourselves this summer? The boy looked back at Peter and grinned mischievously. He swept the wavy long hair out of his face and managed a one-arm shrug with the other shoulder, still pressed against the locker. If he didn't hear anything bad about me, then I guess there wasn't anything to hear. Off the top of my head, there was civics, economics, world history, art history, and I think history. I hated 90% of history class because I felt like the subject material I'm learning could be false and put in a history lesson anyway. You're not wrong, Void. You're not wrong. You never know. History is written by the victors, as they say, so you can only rely on it to a degree. I like things like, you know, like discovery history and things like that. Not so much the politics of history, but like how we invented technology and things like that. Because that's the kind of stuff I don't think you'd change too much. Maybe like the person who invented it might be changed. Maybe it was nicked off someone else. But I like the technological or maybe even like economical history kind of stuff, where like how we got around to cake, like the pineapples, like how pineapples used to be worth more than gold. Because they were centerpieces for the royals, because they were so fascinating things. I love stuff like that. I love random shit, stuff like that. Stuff that's fun facts about the mundane that no one would really want to lie about. I glanced between the two males, a little taken aback. Did everyone talk to the principal so cordially? Where I was from, the principal was a man everyone avoided and only spoke to when absolutely necessary. He was the one that handed out punishments and had no concerns about making friends with students. But even as I thought this, several more kids greeted him as they passed us to their lockers. No one was glaring at me or coughing teacher's pet behind my back. Everyone seemed to genuinely like my uncle. In 8th grade, I learned that the plague existed, though. That's a useful thing, I remember. Did you know that, do you even have this in a ring around the rosies, a pocket full of posies, tissue, tissue, we all fall down. That's about the plague. That's about people dying of the plague. And now I just put them on pizza. Indeed. Some crazy people put them on pizza. Pete rolled his eyes at the boy and shooed us along. You better get to class, Cammy. I'd hate for you to be late on your first day, although I'm sure I could get Mr. Angle to let this slide on this one. Yep, you learned the meaning of that song too. It's a very, very good thing to know. I learned the meaning of that when I went to the London Dungeons, which was a really cool thing. I highly suggest if you're in the UK and there's a dungeons sort of touristy thing, to go for it, because they go through like the gory myths and history of the area that you're in, and the London one. So we had like Jack the Ripper, obviously the plague, we had the Great Fire of London. It was really good. It was really good. Sweeney Todd, I believe, was another one as well. Uncle Peter waved goodbye and turned towards the hallway that would take him back to the office. I was left with the blonde Mr. Mitchell, who was staring at me as if I were an algebra equation he needed to solve. The devilish smile never left his face. If I ever a vacation in the UK, I want to visit Tesco to just stand in the queue. You'll need to go on a Saturday. Otherwise the queues aren't that big. Dungeon, did they keep ancient castles around in the UK, or did they naturally crumble and collapse? I mean, there's a lot of castles that there's a lot you can visit that have like people have kept renovated. I think the best, again, I suppose if you're around London, because a lot of people visit London, your best bet for a castle is oh god, Tower Bridge now. Well, come on, brain. I think it's Tower Bridge. Brain, I know, I've been there. Tower London, that was it. Tower London's a great place to go. That one, they kept pretty up together. There's a few castles more up north as well. But yeah, they're awesome. Can I get one build if I had billions? Probably. If you have billions of pounds or dollars, then you can probably get pretty much anything done, really. Some people would say London is a dungeon. They probably would, yes. Especially the prices there. A capitalist hellhole, that much is for certain. So, your name's Cammy, he finally said, ungluing himself from the lockers. Other kids were moving around us now, shoving notebooks and binders into their allotted homes. The halls were quickly filled with the buzz of teens talking and laughing and slamming. The buzz of teens talking and laughing and the slamming of lockers. Like the shirt? I rolled my eyes at him as I deposited a few items into my own locker. Like I'd never heard that one before. No, it's short for Camille. But no one under the age of 60 should go by that name. The boy laughed, couldn't help but admiring the way his blue eyes crinkled with emotion. He extended his hand. My name's Jason. Nice to meet you, Cammy. I shook his hand, and that's when I noticed the dried purple and yellow splotches that had hardened into his skin. You paint? I asked, gesturing towards his hand. Jason's eyes widened, and an embarrassed look came across his face. Possibly because a girl just pointed out that his hands were dirty. I softened my face into a playful smile, trying to show him that I really didn't care. My hands had been stained the same way countless times, and I knew what it was like to be absorbed by a canvas. Yes, His voice was a little more shy than it had been when he talked to Peter. Same here, I said. The first bell sounded, making us both jump, and I took the opportunity to rip my eyes away from the boy in front of me. Seriously, I couldn't even let myself fall for the first guy I met in this town. I was just in Green Peaks for 1 year, and then I'd leave the mess of my adolescence behind and hopefully start a new and better life in whatever college I choose. Proceeds to whip out a couple $1 billion. Alright, Briny, drink coffee-flavored tea. Briny, with millions of dollars and pounds, you can get almost anything. Coffee-flavored tea. Yeah, almost. Almost. Maybe. I might sell out for that. I'm not sure. Depends how many billions you're talking about here. Next up is tea-flavored coffee. I would try that. If it's tea-flavored, I'll give it a go. Still, it was nice to know there was at least one friendly face here. 10 billion pounds! You can't see it, but I'm doing the Dr. Evil little finger. Although I think even in that movie he went 100 million, didn't he? We weren't quite a billion at that point. Yeah, if I could do it for 10 billion, sure. Sure, I'd sell out for that. I'll drink a coffee for 10 billion. I'll drink a tea for billions. A coffee flavored tea. I walked towards my history class and found Jason following along beside me. I guess it wasn't that much of a coincidence that we shared the same first class in a school this small. Probably a fourth of the student body was in my history class. Suddenly something occurred to me, and I had to ask, why did you call Principal Morse Mo? Jason laughed and shook his head. I'm not even sure when we started that. It's just short for Morse. Well, that all the cool kids called him Mo. 10 billion pounds! What my mother claims I weigh whenever she sees me. My old mother is mean. No, not Momo, just Mo. Mr. Morse the Mo. Cool kids gave their principal a nickname here. It baffled me how the peer system from one school could be so drastically different to another. I also couldn't believe how easily I seemed to fit into this one. The day flew by, and within the first couple of periods I had already made more friends than I could handle, and my brain's limited capacity for new names. No one seemed to mind when I asked 2 or 3 times for them to repeat them. Everyone was friendly and inviting, and no one accused me of being a raging alcoholic like my father. I soon learned that I shared almost the exact same schedule with a girl named Natalie Morgan, another tall blonde who looked like she could be Jason's sister. They weren't related, I discovered, but they did happen to be in the same group of friends. I hate that my first thought was, they weren't related, I discovered, but I was like, but this is a small town. This is a small town. Principal Mo, Treasurer Larry, Secretary Curly. I worked with her from class to class and sat with her posse, which included Jason. A a short boy named Taylor Gardner, and a dreamy girl named Carly Thacker, who could be found doodling in her notebook in the back of every class. As it turned out, they were all just as big of art freaks as I was. "You should join the art club!" Natalie shouted as we dug into our lunches of chicken nuggets and mac and cheese. Oh, that sounds lovely. No one turned their head at her sudden outburst, though. Another thing I quickly learned was that Natalie had only one volume. Louder! These kids had probably grown up with her loud voice, and her high energy was over the last 18... I'd probably grown up with her loud voice and high energy over the last 18 years, and could tune her out by now. My brain has limited capacity for names. My brain. Tee-hee. If I tell a bad joke, I hope my brother doesn't break my brio kneecaps. Hee-hee-hee. Brio knee. Knee. Indeed. I've heard this. I used to work in a high school cafeteria, and we did serve chicken nuggets and mac and cheese. Nuggies and mac? Like that is never a combination I've had before, but it sounds great. It got phased out pretty quick and got replaced by barbecue pork and mac and cheese. That's better! That's even better than nuggies! Barbecue chicken... Oh my god. Oh my god. Doesn't sound very healthy though, I'll be honest. Not sure that should be served to kids, but it sounds tasty as heck. Yeah, we meet every Friday after school and work on projects for the shows we've put on throughout the year. You should definitely join, Taylor said quietly. I had to strain to hear all of his words after the ringing that was left in my ears from Natalie's voice. It sounded like fun, and I really wanted to get back into my art after neglecting it for the last several weeks, but I hesitated. Did I really want to get attached to these people when I was going to leave them all behind in a year? Not to mention, being part of a group like theirs probably meant drama somewhere down the road, as all high school cliques seemed to carry some degree of drama. I didn't want to make waves, I reminded myself. I just wanted to get through my senior year in one piece. Bless her cotton socks. Have friends. We need to have friends. You're gonna have drama in high school regardless of whether you have friends or not. You'll get dragged into it regardless. It always happens, okay? Just have friends. At least you'll have someone to cry to. I actually hated the sweet potato fries school served. I think my sense of taste has been desensitized by other foods they served, though. Forget everyone else comparing food to prison food. Yeah, but we kept it in warmers, so it dried out super quick. Dried out mac and cheese? That doesn't sound very nice. Would it be, like, solid by the time you got it? Like, all the cheese would, like, just make it a solid bit of pasta with cheese in it. That would be gross. No, our lunches used to be good. We used to have burgers all the time, and it was great. And then a man called Jamie Oliver appeared, and he took away anything tasty on our menus. He took away our turkey Twizzlers. He took away our burgers, and I will hate him for all eternity for ruining my childhood meals. And that is all. I barely had any friends in school and still got dragged into drama from people who I was only acquainted with. Exactly, Jamie fucking Oliver. Jamie Oliver is a sworn enemy of many in my generation for these things. How dare he take my turkey Twizzlers! But yeah, there's no escaping trauma in high school. No escape. You have to come out with some trauma in high school, otherwise it's not high school. Bro, why did you say whatever that guy's name was? People are gonna Google stuff if you're careless. Jamie Oliver is a famous chef. You can Google him all you want. This isn't just like some guy I happen to know. This is like a household name in the UK. In fact, you should Google him. And then dislike him. Dislike everything he does. No, don't. Do not. Yeah, exactly. It's not I'm not doxing anyone by saying Jamie Oliver's name. Oh, I thought you were name dropping your old principal or something. No. Jamie Oliver is not. He changed the recipes of schools across the country and ruined everything. I don't know, I started. All their eyes were fixated on me, even Carly's, who had given her notebook a short reprieve so that she could join in on the conversation. I could tell they weren't going to let me off easily. I don't have a car to drive home from any after-school clubs, and I don't want to make my mum come back and get me. Imagine if Jamie Oliver was my principal. I probably wouldn't have enjoyed nice food for as long as I did, because he would have changed it right away. I wouldn't even know how good some of the food was, because he would have taken it away before I'd even started. It would be sad. There, let them see how truly lame I was, and decide if they want a loser in their group. I cringed as I waited for them to disperse, half expecting them to get up and eat on another table without me. It wouldn't be the first time something like that happened. Oh, cutthroat. If that's all you've got, I'd be happy to drive you home. From what it sounds like, we only live a few minutes away from each other anyway. Natalie's eyebrows were raised as she stared me down and took a long swig of her chocolate milk. The others were nodding too, waiting for me to accept her offer. They didn't think I was lame for not having my own car, and they seemed like they actually wanted me in their club. I felt like my brain was firing neurons in every direction as I tried to catch up with what was happening here. Now, at this new school, somehow, I was being accepted. Yeah, okay, I think that'd be fun. I heard myself say the words before I could swallow them back. There was no turning back now, and part of my mind that had been keeping her mouth shut for so long asked me why I should want to turn back anyway. Here was a group of kids that wanted me in their circle. A group of cool kids in their own right. I'd be stupid to turn them down. Maybe Green Peaks was the new beginning I so desperately needed. Maybe I wouldn't have to wait until college to start my new life. I finished my lunch and continued the school day with my newfound friends. I let the tight ball that had been clenched in my chest ever since my father's death loosen fractionally. I let myself breathe a little easier. And for the first time, I let myself hope. Nah, she deserves that. Poor stressed bean. Speaking about drama, my brother used to go to high school with me, and every time I tried to make a lady friend, he'd go, "No, Void, you're weirding them out. Don't say that. No. They think you're a weirdo. I'll talk to them." And he was a thorn to me until he moved to another state, and I was able to make lady friends after he left the state. Aw, silly brothers. Do you think he was being overprotective, or do you think he just didn't like the idea of you having a girlfriend before he did? Chapter 3! So we're about catching up to where I was. I'm hoping we can do the first 10% this stream, because where I stopped at the 10%, it's a really good preview, and it just about starts to do some of the weirder stuff. We're still very much in the setup, which is good setup. It's good stuff. The emotion from the writing's so good. Natalie Morgan, the loudest girl everyone rolled their eyes at, was constantly telling to shut up, quickly became my saving grace in this new town. Instead of ditching me after school, she hung around with me on the uncomfortable stone benches for the full 30 minutes until my mom arrived to pick me up. She talked about art, the different projects she had been working on during the summer break, and even showed me pictures of the completed paintings, sculptures, and carvings on her phone. She talked about the kids in our class, which girls were friendly, which I should avoid, the couples that had been dating since junior high, the ones that had broke up over summer. She talked about the teachers, the ones that were most likely to do pop quizzes, and the ones that could easily go off track when asked well-targeted questions. Now that is the thing you need to know. There was definitely some teachers like that in my past. No, he was being a dick and was obsessed with pick artist shit, which wasn't even accurate. I'm glad he left. Ah! I barely had a chance to get a word into any of the conversations, and that was just fine with me. I was happy to listen to her ramble on about inconsequential topics and take it all in quietly. Her personality reminded me very much of Michael Varner back home, who I knew from experience could talk for an hour straight, never pausing to take a breath. My neck would sometimes get sore from all the nodding during his one-way conversations. While I knew I could never replace Michael as a friend, and I planned on staying in touch with him as much as possible through texting and social media, it was nice to meet someone who could fill the role of my loud, obnoxious best friend almost perfectly. Natalie eventually exhausted her list of conversation topics and turned the questioning to me. I knew it was only a matter of time until someone asked the obvious question, but my whole body still tensed when the explanation was finally requested. So, why did your family move to Green Peaks? Her green eyes were soft and curious, holding none of the accusations I feared would accompany the subject. It did look strange. A mother and her almost 18-year-old daughter moving to an insignificant town with little to offer. My aunt was here, so we did have one tie, I supposed, but it wasn't like she and my mom were close enough to warrant the move by themselves. I didn't want to reveal the gory details behind our flight to Colorado. Flight from Colorado. They're in Wyoming. I didn't want to see judgment in the eyes of all my peers, or hear the word useless, drunk, and alcoholic family thrown behind my back. I didn't want anyone to know the truth behind my father's death. My phone buzzed in my pocket, and I could only imagine what line of text could be awaiting to break me down all over again. I had been expecting the question to reveal itself at some point, so I practiced a simple line to use in response. My father passed away recently, and my mom and I needed a change of scenery. Since my aunt and uncle live here, Green Peaks seemed like the best option. We heard rumors about a blue devil running around the city. My answer contained no lies, but I hoped she couldn't detect the ugly layer of secrecy hiding beneath my words. I was spared from learning what she thought on the matter because my mom chose the perfect time to pull up and roll down the window. "Cammy! I see you made a friend!" My mother's voice was high and excited, and I stopped myself from slapping my hand against my forehead. Really, it wasn't like I was 5 years old. I know, but you are an antisocial baby. She's so proud of you, sweetie. Natalie played it off well, though, and I thanked God again for sending me this high-spirited soul. It seemed like no situation could be too awkward for her, and I wondered if she had ever been embarrassed in her whole life. "Hi, Miss Stone!" Natalie sang after jumping up from the bench. Her long hair had become tangled from the half an hour of sitting in the wind, and she brushed it back from her face. "Nice to meet you, I'm Natalie!" Natalie extended her hand through the open window, and my mom shook it graciously. Judging by the look on her face, my mom hadn't expected me to talk to a single person today, let alone make friends with an exuberant girl like Natalie. But I could hardly be angry at her lack of expectation when I planned on staying quiet and laying low. My new friends just hadn't given me a choice on the matter. "You made a friend attack, deals 90 damage on HP. Congrats, Brownie. You're finally making eye contact with someone. Probably be embarrassing. Why would I make eye contact when I can just look at people's mouths instead? They think I'm looking at their face and their eyes, but I'm not. Ha! Social cheat. Social hacks for the awkward. My mom chatted with Natalie for a few minutes about school and work. And before I could get into the car, she informed my mom that she would drive me home from school from now on. I tried to tell her she didn't need to do that. I absolutely hated being a burden on other people, but she wouldn't budge. Another wave of gratitude washed over me that I had met and made friends with a girl like Natalie Morgan. In the car, I watched as my new friend walked to her own vehicle, a baby blue and white striped truck, sitting by itself in the now near-vacant parking lot. I smiled to myself as she got in and revved the deafening engine. Leave it to Natalie to buy the only vehicle that held a chance of being louder than she was. Oh, Phantom, you finally found someone who couldn't stand the smell. I always look at their neck and think nothing of it. Most people don't. As long as you're looking in like the general vicinity of someone's face, they don't tend to notice. As we drove away, I could feel the excitement rolling off my mum in waves. I knew she had hoped beyond reason that I would end up liking it here, and apparently the evidence of a single friend was enough to confirm that I would. I tried not to roll my eyes and allowed her to have her moment. So you made a friend on your very first day! That's wonderful, honey! Her eyes were sparkling as much as her purple shirt. I was actually getting teary at the thought of me was she actually getting teary at the thought of me making friends? I didn't think I had been that antisocial before moving, but maybe I was? I didn't realize how important it was for her that I found a way to fit in here. Maybe she was just happy that I was capable of fitting in somewhere. Yeah, I made a few friends, actually. They invited me to join their school art club. I think I'm gonna do it. I decided I would put all of my mum's worries to rest. While I wasn't completely sold on Green Peaks yet, it wouldn't kill me to let on... I need a drink. I've been too quick reading. I haven't drank anything yet during this stream. Hydrated! Wouldn't get me to let on like I was for her sake. I remembered how fragile she still was in the aftermath of my father's death, and resolved to be a little more generous with my attitude. That's fantastic, sweetheart! She was definitely crying now. I chose to pretend like I didn't notice and instead focus on the road in front of us, prepared to grab the wheel if it looked like her tears would land us in a ditch. To change the subject, I asked how she liked her new students, and if they appreciated her outfit. One girl had been brave enough to compliment her skirt, she said, but most of the children were shy and reserved. There was one boy named Tommy Higgins that had the potential to be a troublemaker after he accidentally tripped his neighbour on the way to his seat, so she was going to have to keep an eye on him. She thought it would take her a week or two before they all became comfortable with her as their teacher, before they returned to their goofy selves. Hey Bryony, is and then there were none public domain? I have no idea. Is that a book? I would have to look it up. And then there were none. Oh, it's an Agatha Christie. Potentially. There's a few Agatha Christie ones that are. I'm not sure that one is. No, it's not in Gothenburg anyway. I'd have to look at it. Which is the main one I used for finding open source books. And then there were none by Agatha Christie. Yeah, I found a version that's attribution non-commercial, non-derivative 4.0 international license. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So yes, I think it is. It's just finding the copies of it when it's like that. I mean, you can buy them, obviously, because people have rights to sell them because that's how it works. But yes, just don't read the original title. I won't. I feel like I shouldn't ask what that is. When we arrived home, I dropped my book bags on one of the kitchen stools and made my way to the family room to relax. None of my new teachers were rude enough to hand out homework on the first day, so I planned on sinking into the cushy couch and napping before dinner. I had just wrapped myself in a soft pink blanket and closed my eyes when my phone began to buzz again, demanding this time. I squeezed my eyes shut tighter. Just ignore it, I thought. They'd get bored of texting me eventually. 3 more buzzes revealed that they wouldn't. Fine, I fumed. I detangled myself from the blanket and half fell off the couch in my annoyance, grabbing my phone from where it landed on the floor. I pressed the button on the side to turn it off, when I saw who all the messages were from. I stopped and smiled. I unlocked my phone and opened the texts. So, how'd your first day go? Still waiting. Hello, I'm still your best friend, aren't I? Camille Jean Stone. Answer me right now. I should have known that Michael would want to hear how my first day went. Relax, Varna, I typed. Went surprisingly well. I met a few art freaks who were pretty cool. 3 bubbles appeared at the bottom of the conversation, his response quickly being written out. I could see his fingers flying over the screen as he typed out a snarky reply. I sighed and got up, knowing this would take up most of my afternoon. I made my way to the spacious kitchen. This is something. Is this really what you extracted the water boiler? Extracted a water boiler from the cabinet next to the stove, where I'd watched my uncle unload it. Kettle. It's a kettle. Why did you call it a water boiler? It's a kettle, bro. It's a kettle, bruv. Kettle. Ugh. I got the water boiling and spooned some black tea and rose petals into the infuser before setting it into my favourite mug. A large black cup with my initials engraved in gold. It had a chip in the handle when my father dropped it last year. My phone vibrated noisily on the granite countertop. It was Michael yelling at me from 100 miles away. Unrealistic, no one has a kettle in America. We all have Kinner kit. You have like stove kettles, don't you? Like you live in the 1900s, you weirdos. I know there's an issue with wattage and actual kettles or something in America, and that's your pathetic excuse for not having kettles, but, you know. About time! Here I was thinking you'd been kidnapped, murdered, skinned alive, and buried in a shallow grave! They do that over there, you know. I rolled my eyes and replied, How do you know that? How do you know that I'm not? This could be the murderer using my phone. I smiled and watched the bubbles blink as he typed. It was nice to get back into our bantering routines. We had been texting each other this way for 4 years, from our bedrooms late at night to mere seats away in algebra class. It was easy for me to pretend we were only a block away from each other now, back in our little suburb of Plainfield. We could be breaking down our first day of senior year together, gossiping about the cheerleaders that gained weight over the summer, and the teacher who tried out a hideous new haircut with the attempt to look younger. We just put water in the prereqs and put it in the microwave. I don't even call it a water boiler. I still call it squealing noisemaker or tea kettle. Tea kettle is fine. We have a wattage issue. Electric tea kettles. Yeah, Bernie, how do you order that? I don't know. I was looking. There was some TikTok drama about kettles and stuff, and like British people going like, "Why do you use your kettles?" And there was an American going like, "We can't. We literally can't. Like, apparently your plugs have like lower wattage than ours, so it doesn't always support a kettle, and your electric kettles would take longer than ours would. So it's like easier for you to put it in the microwave, but that's shit." Gross, and I don't know why you would put the water in the microwave. Probably trick your breaker. Yeah. The teapot began to whistle. See, they call it a teapot here. Why was it called a water boiler? It made me laugh so much when I first read it. Like, what the fuck? It's a kettle, bro. It's a kettle. Reminding me I wasn't in my tiny kitchen in Plainfield anymore. I poured the water over the infuser and stared out the window, watching the trees of Green Peaks Forest sway in the wind. At least it was beautiful here. If one loved the colour green. I talked to Michael for over an hour, breaking down every person I met and which classes I thought would be terrible. He didn't share many details on how his own first day went, and I knew it was my fault. Michael was guilty by association in the eyes of our student body, and while he didn't have many friends before my father's accident, he certainly didn't have any now. I felt terrible leaving him behind to deal with the hostility alone, but I didn't have a lot of say in my mother's decision to move. Besides, if anything could help him return the social standing he held before, it would be my absence. I was sipping my tea which had cooled immensely since the start of our conversation, when I read a line of text that made me splutter back into the mug. Does Green Peaks have any hot guys I need to know about? I laughed and rolled my eyes. Of course he would want to know if I'd met any hot guys. I thought of Jason and his long blonde hair and surprisingly warm blue eyes. Blondes had never really been my type, but I couldn't deny that he was cute. And he was into art, which pulled more weight in attractiveness in my book. Despite the qualities in his favour, though, I knew I wouldn't pursue anything beyond friendship with him. It just didn't seem the right time to get into a relationship, and honestly, I barely knew him. I had been the type of girl to become close friends with a boy before thinking about turning it into something more. I'm not hooking you up with any more of my friends. Remember how Danny Rochester turned out. Oh, this is a TikTok? Okay, I don't need to take it seriously. Just plugging a tea kettle sounds dangerous anyway. Like the wires can get tangled up and cause a fire, but on the other hand, I mean, the kettle's... The electric kettle's wire is really short, so there's nothing to get tangled. We reminisced about the last boyfriend I tried to set him up with, and the disaster that ensued. Danny believed in open relationships, and neither of us were aware of the 3 other boyfriends he kept from different schools. Eaten by caramel spiders. Yeah, one of those caramel spiders was his boyfriend. Was one of the boyfriends. We texted and teased each other until supper time, when I was forced to leave my phone on the counter and join my mum at the bar in the kitchen. It was an unspoken agreement that the dining room was too grand for the 2 of us to dine in alone, It was only 7 in the evening by the time we finished eating, and I didn't feel like watching TV or reading a book. It was too early to go to bed, and I didn't want to join my mom's lesson planning at the table. I was about to accept that this would be a boring night. One of many to come. I was afraid, when a sudden inspiration hit me. Here I was, in this enormous house. And I hadn't even taken the time to explore its depths yet. I had seen most of the first floor, which consisted of the living room, family room, dining room, kitchen, 2 bathrooms, and my mother's bedroom. A door set into the wall besides the staircase revealed another set of stairs that ascended into the cellar. I took the stairs down, 1 step at a time, feeling the cold leach into my bones. The room was small, and it seemed the previous family hadn't needed the storage space, because no boxes or rogue furniture had made its home down there. The lighting was non-existent, but with the flashlight on my phone, I could make out the grime and possible mold on the caked on the walls. I made a mental note to stay clear of the basement from now on. I dusted myself off after emerging from the cellar and continued up the next flight of stairs to the 2nd floor landing. Mother would be me things say, because I was taught that mom and mother are very different. I call my mother a lot. I don't think my mother doesn't like being called mother. I can tell being called. I kind of need to. I make an effort to call her mum sometimes. Because I know she doesn't like me calling her mother, but I like calling her mother. I don't know, in my head it's greater respect, and she deserves all the respect in the world. Because she's amazing, and I love her. But she wants to be called mum. Because she wants a more familiar term. I guess mother to her is too formal. Very strange. I think I started doing it more sarcastically to begin with, though. I call my mum, hey you! Oh, she, the cat. I call her she, the cat's. Oh, sorry. I've completely messed that up. But one of the things that gets said around here, if you're talking to someone when they're in the room and you say, oh, she's doing that, the mum, if it's mum or something, and anyone will turn around and go, who's she, the cat's mother? That just popped into my head. Mother is the person that gave birth to you. Mom/mum is the person that loves you. Oh, that's really cute. Yeah, I need to call my mum more then. I dusted myself off after emerging from the cellar and continued up the next flight of stairs to the 2nd floor landing. The dark hardwood floors extended through every room of the house thus far, and the peeling wallpaper changed patterns from one room to the next. Yellow poppies in the kitchen, burgundy stripes in the living room, and now subtle blue flowers in the upstairs hallway. I could feel the bubbles in the paper as I ran my hand along the wall, the product of 100 years of aging. 3 more bedrooms lined the hallway along with 2 bathrooms. I had chosen the larger bedroom next to the bathroom, with a huge vanity sink and a clawfoot tub. The water had run orange the first minute of use when I tried to take a bath that first night, but the rust had all washed away now, and I was content that the water was clean enough. At the end of the hallway, to the right of the window on the far wall, I found another door that I hadn't investigated yet. The brass knob felt cold and small in my hand, and the door squeaked loudly as I pulled it open. The stairs that had been hiding behind the door were dusty, showing no footprints or evidence of a person setting foot in them in a very long time. It looked creaky and worn, scaling upwards into the darkness like a horror novel. I considered turning around and calling it a night, but it couldn't have been worse than the cellar. I was determined to see the whole house through. Now you're just bragging about the number of bedrooms. She did say she basically lives in a mansion, to be fair. I took 3 steps up, and was surprised when none of them creaked. Even the main stairs in this house groaned on every other step, and yet this one remained silent as I continued upwards, disturbing the hibernating dust. The door at the top of the stairs opened just as soundlessly as the steps that had carried me to it. I felt the room sigh as I entered, as if it had been waiting the last 100 years for someone to explore it. The air was cooler than I had anticipated. Not at all what I predicted a musty attic would feel like. I flipped the light switch, with little hope of success, and was surprised again when a single light bulb flashed to life overhead. This space was much larger than the one in the basement, and was clearly where the family stored their belongings. A wooden rocking chair sat in the corner with a white cushion strapped across the seat, now yellowed with age. A grandfather clock stood beside it, the glass face coated in enough dust to prevent me from reading whatever time it was frozen on. Scattered throughout the room was an abundance of miscellaneous items, ranging from piles of leather-bound books to a crate of wooden children's toys. I stepped past a box containing glass bottles and flasks that looked like they belonged in my chemistry classroom. Then a basket of unidentifiable herbs. A funny scent tickled my nose upon further inspection, and I dropped the basket to move on. It was there, in the center of the room, against the far wall and directly in front of the attic window, that I found it. Small wooden table, perfectly circular with soft, smooth edges. It was the only piece of furniture in the entire attic that wasn't covered in layers of dust. Situated on top of it was a thick white candle with wax hardened down its sides, next to an old, dull pencil. A matching wooden chair sat in front, inviting someone to sit down and write, with the Green Peaks forest spread out below. I was pondering the absence of the dust, wondering how the table could possibly be so clean amidst the stale state of the rest of the room, when I noticed the piece of paper. It was folded into the shape of a bird, a perfect bird, a beautiful representation of the art of origami that I'd never been able to master. I picked the bird up and felt the weight of it in my hands. It was definitely a very old piece of paper, not much I could tell, but like the table it lay on, it was free of dust. As I peered at it closer, I realized there were words written within the folds. The bird was a beautiful piece of art, one that I usually wouldn't dream of disturbing, but curiosity got the better of me. I unfolded the note, one wing at a time, being careful not to rip the old material. When it was finally spread flat on the table, I gasped. It was a love letter. A poem, perhaps? Written a century in the past by a man who was certainly dead now. Are there words that can describe your beauty? Vowels and consonants capable of capturing the essence of your perfection? I think not, my dear. A fool I might be, but words are all I have. Your eyes, though often sad, bring warmth to an internally damned heart. Your smile, so coveted, could bring a man back from the brink of death. And your heart, my God, that you simply cannot hide. Your love may not be directed at me, but I feel it, my sweet girl, and I ache with the knowledge that it exists, that you exist. Love, Z. I'm trying to read this all seriously. And that butt, so cute. Fur. You have one bedroom house. If the house is dusty, why'd they buy it? They didn't buy it. They took it because, well, the dude, their uncle got it for them because they needed somewhere to live. Green herbs will heal you, red ones will cure any disease, and yellow ones will raise your max HP. Imagine if he was rejected after writing this. He was rejected before writing this, by the sounds of it. Modern love notes be like, and that but so peach, so hard. And the boing boing, so boingy. My eyes swept across the page, reading it twice, then 3 times. I didn't know who the poet was, or the girl he so obviously admired, but I could feel the love and care that were taken in writing these words. I couldn't remember ever reading something that made me feel so deeply. Like I was exposed to a love that in no right was mine, but I desperately wanted it to be. I knew it was crazy, but I felt like the letter writer knew I was reading his words, wherever he might be. A drop fell onto the paper, alerting me to the fact that I'd begun to cry. Maybe I was being hit with whatever wave of emotion had crossed my mum earlier in the car, because I'd never been much of a crier. Nor was I known to reveal any emotion, really. I typically bottled up my feelings, then only allowed them to escape into my art. Perhaps they were coming out because I'd neglected my emotions the past 3 weeks. I knew I needed to change that. I tried to match up the folded lines and reassemble the paper bird, but it was no use. My fingers simply weren't built for origami. I folded the letter into a simple square instead and placed it carefully into my pocket. I knew I'd be reading it again. My life, right then, might have seemed dark and ugly, but I decided to focus on the beauty when I was able to find it. An old friend, a group of new friends, a loving mother, and a letter that was so beautifully written it caused me to shed my first tear since my father's death. Now when does the murder happen? It's really sweet. I love this book so far. It's really good. The pacing's really good at this. Like I said, she conveys feelings so good. I can get into this character's shoes so easily. For a school with only 200 students, Green Peaks had a decent turnout for the first art club meeting of the year. That was off the wall! Yeah. I counted roughly 20 other kids scattered around Mrs. Carson's classroom, some chatting in groups and others sitting by themselves, already diving into another project before the meeting had even started. I sat with Natalie, Jason, Taylor, and Carly, and was told that we were the only seniors in the club this year. That explained why I didn't recognize any of the other students from previous classes. Slipping into the character's shoes is one thing. Getting into the altar top. I don't think I could. She's a teenager. Therefore, she's probably a lot smaller than me, hopefully. Maybe. I don't know. I'm quite small anyway, so... Nah, you didn't take your shoes off, Bernie. How can you get in their shoes? We can double shoes. Just get in their clown shoes and we can just wear our shoes in their shoes. My friends didn't bother introducing me to anyone else, and I didn't ask to be. I was secretly grateful when Mrs. Carson began the meeting by talking about the upcoming art show the school would be putting on, and didn't force us to go around this classroom introducing ourselves. My palms had already been sweating at the mere thought of the group's eyes on me. Ugh, I hated being the center of attention even for a second. Clown Bernie. Bold to assume I don't usually wear clown shoes. I was already getting used to having more than a single close friend. It'd been years since I'd had a group of friends to sit with at lunch and hang out with after school. I'd spent plenty of one-on-one time with Michael throughout my high school career, but the group dynamic was different. I realized I liked being able to remain quiet and listen while others talked, and add my own input and stories when I desired. That is my favorite thing to do too. I had only been a student at Green Peaks High for a week, but the people were already treating me like I'd been there my whole life. I pulled my attention back to the classroom, and Mrs. Carson, who was continuing to relay information about how the art club worked, and what we could expect out of every club meeting. The art club will put on 3 shows for the town throughout the year. Our fall show will be held at the first week of October, our winter show shortly after you return from winter break, and the spring show in the middle of April. Mrs. Carson's eyes swept around the classroom as she continued. We have 2 months to prepare for the fall show, where you will all be expected to submit 2 or 3 pieces to be displayed for the school and entire town to admire. Fall themes are appreciated, but not necessarily required. You'll need my approval before displaying them at the show, so don't even think about trying anything inappropriate. She turned her head and found Jason at our table, who was staring at the ceiling innocently. Innocently. After a moment of trying to hide his amusement, Jason's face erupted into a grin. What? He laughed as the whole class followed the direction of Miss Carson's glare. I squirmed in my seat and reminded myself that they were looking at the boy next to me and not me. I suppose I should get used to attention being drawn to us, with Jason and Natalie as my friends. Me eating lunch, I lean forward and have my arms on the table, not talking to anyone. One way to do it. I won't do it again, Jason promised, and the way he batted his eyelashes at the teacher made everyone laugh. Mrs. Carson failed to hide her own smile, and she turned away from our table and continued giving directions. Natalie and Taylor were still giggling at the memory of what Jason had done, and I could only guess what it was. What did you do? I whispered to Jason. His eyes were bright and animated, his smile returning to a mischievous smirk I'd witnessed in the hallway on my first day. He leaned towards me, and my breath caught at how close we were sitting. His hair tickled my face as he whispered into my ear, Let's say Mrs. Carson isn't a fan of nude paintings. Tut, tut, child, tut, tut. If you find presentations embarrassing, Brownie, just remember this CNN News walked into your classroom while I was doing math. They edited me out of the news headline. Did you get paid? You want a refund? That assumes that you paid for them to arrive. Did you want them to cover your maths? Did you do good at the maths? Do you want to show off your maths to the world? I leaned back and averted my eyes, feeling my face redden under his gaze. Natalie and Taylor tried to cover the next laughing fit that ensued, but luckily Mrs. Carson was on the other side of the room and didn't hear them. Jason went on to tell the story of how he tried to enter a painting of Marilyn Monroe wearing only a Santa hat into the winter show his freshman year. He had almost gotten away with it, he claimed, until the teacher went through the displays to straighten everything up and found his precious gem. From then on, all pieces of art had to be cleared by Mrs. Carson days ahead of the show. They didn't even give me prior warning. I want a refund for my time. I spent too much time being nervous around them. Yeah, fair. Actually, yeah. I would be shitting myself too. By the time she made her way back to our side of the room, we had let our laughter die down, and were smirking at each other silently. Mrs. Carson gave Jason another steely glance before turning away, and Jason winked at me behind her back. I would like for you all to work on a collaborative project to submit to the fall show as well. Miss Carson went on, I suggest you break into groups of 4 to 6 people and start coming up with ideas over the next week. At our next Friday meeting, you'll be able to get started on them. All around the room, students began to break into groups and discuss ideas for their projects. None of us moved from our secluded area of the table, and no one approached us asking to join our posse. Maybe it was because we were seniors and somehow came off as intimidating, but I had a strong feeling it had something to do with Jason's record of troublemaking. As we brought our heads together, I could tell they were just as happy as I was to keep our project between the 5 of us. Oh, it's 2 hours! Oh my gosh, I didn't realize. We're gonna have to stop there, people! I hope you've enjoyed this book. If you're interested in more of this book, the link to it on Amazon and the link to it on Goodreads are both in the description. Highly suggest you go have a look at them, check it out. Oh no, I have terrible news, Bryony. Today is your birthday! Happy birthday, normal size fan. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. I'm gonna chill stuff. You should get my merch for your birthday. No, you do what you want with your money, but treat yourself to my merch. No, you do you. But also, once again, I am very much hoping to live off my creative endeavors, and that would be even better to happen if I had some support. And if you'd like to support, you can support me on Patreon, where you'll be getting exclusive streams and short stories every month. Where next one will be a writing stream. Do you know who else gets access to those streams? YouTube members. YouTube members also get access to those streams at the 2nd tier, where you too can also join me for idea circling and writing. Yes. I need to make a script for myself. This is my shilling script, and I can just pick it up every time I want to shill, and then I won't be stumbling over myself all the time. But if you don't want that, and you just have an off payment or something, then there's super chats, and there's also Kofi. That is also very good for off paymenty stuff. If you just want to donate a little money, that's fine too. If you don't want to have to subscribe for a month, and you just got a little extra, and you just hey, she's cool, I'll go give her some money. There's 2 ways you can do that. There is also merch. If you want to do an off payment but actually want something for your money, there is many a digital product. There is also physical products. You can go on my website and buy what you want, and treat yourself to a thing and support me at the same time. Other than that, again, thank you very much for coming. Thank you everyone in chat. Thank you to anyone who lurked. And thank you to anyone who watches the VOD. Your support, whether it be monetizies, or lurkies, or anything, is really appreciated. Thank you so much. Hey, you're cool. Throw a quick 5 quid at your head. Yeah! By all means! Shameless advertising. Bryony, before we start this stream, this book was sponsored. No, it wasn't. I'm still working on some sponsor stuff. We're getting there with that. If you have not already, I would highly appreciate it if you could leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel, because that's another way you can support me. And that one's free. You just have to press a button and go ba-da-da. Look, I supported. It's great. You should also press the bell button, by the way, because apparently my percentage of people pressing the bell button is below average. And I don't know whether that affects anything, I'm not gonna lie, but you know what? I don't want to be below average in anything. I want to be extra and above average in everything. And I think that's it for my shilling. I will stop now. But again, thank you so much everyone for coming! I am really looking forward to the rest of this book. We know there's gonna be some magic, we know there's gonna be some murder, so look forward to it next week. I will see you. I probably won't see you till Tuesday now because I can't stream on Monday. I'll be back with some Ruiner on Tuesday, so I'll see you then. I had fun. I hope you had fun. This has been Bryony Smith, Life Lived in Library. Goodbye.